one? What do you call a law that forbids Israelis from marrying Palestinians from the West Bank? What do you call policies that discriminate against Palestinians and forbid them to build on land that was in their family's possession for centuries? What do you call walls in the middle of roads that separate Jews from Palestinians? What do you call the Canadization and the creation of little islands where Palestinians can barely live in areas that are disjointed by checkpoints and the separation wall? What do you call walls and checkpoints that separate Palestinians from the agricultural land, schools, and hospitals? What do you call it when someone has to choose a wife based on whether she lives within or outside a separation wall in the same village? What do you call the confiscation of land and constant leveling of houses in front of the eyes of terrified children, seeing their already worn-out toys in the middle of the rubble of their homes? What do you call the over 1 year long blockade and isolation of Gaza that has reduced the whole population to starvation? What do you call whole towns surrounded by a ring of concrete that is 9 meters tall with gates to go in and out? What do you call needing a permit to go from Nablus to Jenin, two Palestinian cities in the West Bank? What do you call it when a state does not allow a child born in a refugee camp outside of Bethlehem, a few kilometers from the sea, to go and even see the sea? Or to even visit the destroyed village where his grandfather was born in what is now Israel? What do you call it when women have to give birth on checkpoints? What do you call it when old people die on checkpoints? What do you call it when Palestinians living in Israel are lynched and threatened if they criticize the democratic state of Israel and call for equal rights for all? What do you call it when Palestinians are constantly forbidden to be united with their families and when thousands are removed from the West Bank for no reason other than they are not Jewish? What do you call it when Palestinians cannot return to their ancestral homes and exercise an international law of return, whereas any Jewish person can return anytime with a free ticket and a fancy home on a hilltop in the West Bank? What do you call it when thousands of laborers from Thailand and Indonesia and China can come in and work in Israel under meager slave-like conditions, but not Palestinian laborers? What do you call it when 500,000 settlers live on hilltops in the West Bank and drive on Jewish-only roads and have access to much more water than Palestinians in surrounding villages? What do you call it when a state takes care of Jewish settlers in the West Bank but does nothing to a population that it occupied for 40 years across the street from the settlement? This is not just apartheid, separation, and racial discrimination. It's colonization, oppression, brutal military occupation, neglect, and destruction of Palestinian lives. They exercise apartheid under the pretext of military orders, but it's the state of Israel that is enforcing these orders. Therefore, it is the state of Israel that is an apartheid state. Apartheid in Israel did not start with the wall or with the immoral, inhumane 40-year-long occupation of 1967 of the West Bank and Gaza. It started in 1947 with the colonization of all of Palestine, with the idea of a Jewish-only land on a land that was inhabited for centuries by a majority of non-Jews. I, for one, was forbidden to go in and see my aunts and uncles and cousins, not even with my American passport. I lost my right of return because of a policy that's been strangling Palestinians and keeping them out. A dear childhood friend and a friend of many of you here, Layla, got a phone call from her 70-year-old father only 2 days ago telling her that they have a week to pack up and leave their home in Bir Zayt. The home where little Salma, his granddaughter, woke up every morning in her summer visits, grabbing her grandfather's hand to go pick strawberries. Until Israel exercises its random policy of denial of entry on little Layla, she may enter Palestine, but she won't be able to pick strawberries with her grandfather there. I talked with this man. I know how much he loves the 10 variety of plums he has in his garden, how much he loves the earth, the air, the stones of his home. How can this man, who was born there, not be allowed to live his old days in Palestine? How can this happen? Bono said, history will be our judge, but what is written is up to us. Who we are, who we've been. Excuse me. What we want to be remembered for, we can't say our generation didn't know how to do it. We can't say our generation couldn't afford to do it. And we can't say our generation didn't have reason to do it. It's all up to us. We can choose to shift the responsibility, or we can choose to shift the paradigm. Reject the language, as Jeff Harper, an Israeli activist, said yesterday, that lets states off the hook. Reject the language that refuses to assign the word terror to states that raise villages and kill innocent people daily in your name. Condoleezza Rice, who's enacting the end of the term choreography of, oh, we tried to bring peace in the Middle East. In one hand, in the other, she gives Israel $30 billion worth of military arms. When Palestinians try to get arms, it's called smuggling. When Palestinians resist, they are called militants and terrorists. Jeff Harper called on all of us to enforce a language and a paradigm that adopts human rights for all. Israel is not the victim. It's a colonizer state first and an occupier state too. It never was since creation. It was criminal from the beginning. And although nobody asked the Palestinians whether they wanted to clear out for the victims of the Holocaust, we accept that it's there, that they, the people, the Jewish people, the children, my friends and my non-friends are there. My question is, when is the state of Israel going to accept that we, the Palestinians, are there too? Thank you, and justice for all.